Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host and producer this afternoon, Logan Landers, and joining me to talk about the 2024 NFL Draft prospect, Lad McConkey, wide receiver coming out of the University of Georgia. Go Dogs, as always. Mr. Football, Vincent Turner. How you doing this afternoon, Vincent?
How you doing, Mr. Landers? We
Uh,
talking about a gentleman that you're very high on, Mr. Lad McConkey. Go
Yes, sir.
Dogs.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to this one once I saw the schedule, and it's going to be a good show, man. Good show. Looking forward to it. But, guys, before we get into it, before we dissect and break down Lad McConkey, what we like about him, and his traits and assets on the football field, be sure to give us a like, follow, share, and subscribe on our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube, main two hubs. And also check us out on our podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. Shout out to them for helping us each and every single week. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever it is you enjoy listening to your podcast. Well, you are in luck because we are there each and every single week. Vincent, let's get into it. Let's talk about this talented wide receiver coming out of the University of Georgia. Junior Lad McConkey, 6', 185, coming out of Georgia, out of the Chatsworth region was where he was born, and he went to Athens with the University of Georgia with the Bulldogs. Talking about this young man, is a very much so a fan favorite. If you're around the Athens area, if you're a Georgia fan, then you know that Lad McConkey is, a lot of people say the heart and soul of the Georgia team, a guy that everyone roots for, and someone who was a crucial part of the locker room in Georgia the past few seasons he was here. So sad to see him leave in Athens, but excited to see him in the NFL. Let's talk about him, break him down, and look at what he did at the University of Georgia. In his 3 seasons there in 2021, came off to a solid start. 5 touchdowns, 447 yards, 31 touchdowns. 2022, as we know, Georgia, great year for them. 58 grabs, a career high, 762 yards, 7 TDs. And this past season, as we know, battled some injuries early on. 30 catches for the season, 478 yards, and also got in the end zone twice. So I think with Lad McConkey, I think about him, obviously people are going to look at is he does have some previous injuries. He did miss a couple of games this past season, but my goodness, Vincent, when he is on the field, he is dominant. And I mean, is it too crazy for me to say that he is one of the best route runners coming into this 2024 NFL draft? When you look at the receiving class, as we know, it's got some studs. Don't get it twisted. You got Rome Odunze, Marvin Harrison Jr., just to name 2 of them. But Lad McConkey, if you look at him, if you look at his body of work, well, yeah, he might not have the same physical traits as them in terms of how he can get up and get the ball. But if you give him the ball in the flat, if you give him on a quick curl route, a slant route, whatever it may be, this guy will light you up, Vincent. And that is due to his absolutely blazing speed. He's got tremendous speed. He can really get it rolling once he's in the open field. And I mean, it would not surprise me one bit if he is running a 4.6, 4.5 40, if not even faster than that at the combine. Acceleration is definitely top tier, A plus, as you like to give grades on the young man. Great flexibility, amazing change of direction. That's due to his tremendous footwork. I mean, like I say, great route running. You got to be able to change on a drop of a hat, and he can definitely do that. Good hips as well. Not afraid to get things rolling out there. Like I mentioned, tremendous route runner, is just going to confuse defensive backs like he did. Wouldn't matter if it's on the snap, he's off in the field a little bit. He can get open. That is what this guy does. And amazing hands when in traffic. If you watch some of the balls that Stetson Bennett would throw to him or Carson Beck would throw to him, I mean, this guy, whenever he was in traffic, he would hold on for dear life. He wouldn't let go of that ball, Vincent. Whenever he got hit up the middle, he was staying ready, and he was holding on to that ball for dear life. That's what you like to see out of your wide receivers, that tenacity, and that's what Lad McConkey is. Big play guy as well, averaged 15.9 yards per catch this past season, 14.4 his first year, and 13.1 in his sophomore year. Overall, man, I think Lad McConkey is a tremendous player. Obviously, people are going to look at him for his smaller frame. He comes in, like I mentioned, 6', 185. People might knock on him for that. But look, man, he might not have that. He might not be the strongest player, might not be the most physical player, Vincent, but he's got something that the great late Al Davis would always look for, man, and that is speed. And speed kills in the NFL. Look at some of the greats he got right now. Tyreek Hill, he's putting in work out there. You got a lot of great guys, and I think Lad McConkey, whichever team he goes to, will automatically be a plug-and-play type of player. You could put him in there, and he could be a guy who could be around the league for quite some time. barring any other injuries. But overall, love Ladd McConkey, was a tremendous guy on the field and off the field for Georgia. Sad to see him go, but I'm excited to see where he's going to land in the 2024 NFL draft. Mr. Turner, your thoughts?
I'm going to tell you this about the young man. When he was at the University of Georgia the last 3 years, he's been probably the most underrated football player on their football team. He really came on as wide receiver. He was a former quarterback in high school. Mm-hmm. But what I liked about him, I like about the production. Over 119 career receptions, 1,687 yards, average 14 yards a catch, 18 total touchdowns, 14 receiving. He made all SEC second team in 2022, battled some injuries this year, but he was a run when the gang got bigger. He played well against Alabama in the SEC championship games. In the college football semifinals, he played well against Ohio State. He played well against TCU. He just, he has really exceeded everyone's expectations. Mm-hmm. And he's a guy that when you look at it, I know a lot of people talk about Brock Bowers, but make no mistake, Ladd McConkey had a lot to do with their offensive success the last 2 years at Georgia. And then you just said, man, his skill set. He's got great short area quickness, A+. Burst off the line of scrimmage, A+. You brought up his route running. It's at another level. Look what he's doing down at the Senior Bowl this week. He's eating DBs up like it's no tomorrow. He can track the ball at a high level. Then he can return punts. He's very special in the return game. And then he's a vertical threat. I think that's what everybody's really surprised, how deep he could get on people. And when you look at it, he played in the toughest conference. And every time it looked like he was separating from DBs at a high level. And when you look at all the comparisons, he reminds me of Tommy McDonald that played at OU in the 50s. He's got a little bit of another former dog, Ken Lawrence, who was an outstanding halfback at Georgia. Then he's got a little bit of Howard Twilley, Miami Dolphins, University of Tulsa. Then he's got that, what I call that bandy, speed, San Diego Chargers, University of Arkansas, Lance Allworth. And then he really puts me in the mind of this player. You remember, well, Logan, you're a young guy, so you weren't born at the time. Joey Jones, that played at Alabama in the early 80s, from 82 to 84, played outside, number 4, out of Mobile, Alabama. Mr. Jones went on and became the head coach of South Alabama. He's got a lot of Jody Jones in him, man, who played at Alabama under Bear Bryant. Then he's got a little bit of Eric Swanson that played at Tennessee. A little bit of Steve Rivera that played at the University of California. And of course, his skill levels is, I think he's going to be a better football player than Julian Edelman. I know I'm saying that real loud, the gentleman that played in New England, but Lance McConkey is a more polished, I want to say, football player. And he's got a little more polish to him, like Wes Welker, Texas Tech, Guns Up, Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots. This young man is going to be very successful on the next level. There's no question about it. I call him even a better grade up than Hunter Renfrow that's playing with your Raiders right now.
Ooh, okay. And no, I mean, that's not that much. That's not a crazy take, Vincent. I mean, because when you look at them and you mentioned, Welker, Edelman, Renfrow, all those guys are tremendous players. We know that. That's why those first two played in the league for a long time. That's why Renfro's doing his thing out there in Vegas. And the thing with Ladd McConkey, though, is Vincent, is it too crazy to say that he might be one of the better route runners than all three of those guys at this level without even getting to the league?
I can see. I mean, coming into the league, I can see that.
Yeah.
I would co-stamp that.
And I appreciate that, sir. I do. Well, my final thoughts on Ladd McConkey, as I mentioned, and you brought up a great point, Vincent. Brock Bowers was a guy who got a lot of national spotlight just with how well he played. But Ladd McConkey, he's always been Mr. Reliable whenever he's on the field, whenever you get him the ball. He can always fight for that first down yardage. He should always catch that ball in traffic. And even though, like you mentioned, that Brock Bowers got all that national attention, and rightfully so, guy's a heck of an athlete and a great football player, Ladd McConkey might have been that heart and soul on that Georgia team for all those seasons. Guy in the locker room everyone loves. Guy on the field who can get some good production. We mentioned he's got that blazing speed. He's got that tremendous route running and that tremendous short burst, as you mentioned, Mr. Turner. Lad McConkey is going to be a great player in the league. I am excited to see where he's going to land and can't wait to see him break out in the next level. Your final thoughts?
When I'm looking at Lad McConkey, and I got a lot of friends at the University of Georgia, football fans, and he was part of a great run by Kirby Smart, 2 national championships back-to-back on a great football team that produced a lot of NFL players, and everybody talking about Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, the Kobe Dean, Louis Sin, Kelly Ringo, Quan Walker, amen, and then now Brock Bowers, Kamari Lassiter. You better put Lad McConkey in that conversation, because pound for pound, he might have been the best player on that football team the last couple of years at the University of Georgia. A lot of respect for the young man, a lot of respect. And I think he's going to be a very excellent football player. That being said, go Dogs.
Yes, sir. Well said. And that's how we'll wrap it up today with a Go Dogs. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, give us a like, follow, share, and subscribe. As always, Facebook and YouTube, main 2 platforms over there. And check out our podcast. Thanks to the Believe Podcast Network. You can check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, most popular ones, but any other podcast streaming platforms you use, well, you are in luck. You can find us there each and every single week. Mr. Football, Vincent Turner, always a pleasure talking football with you, talking prospects. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Guys, go enjoy the Pro Bowl this weekend. We'll talk to you again